phones, or at least put them on the silent feature, please. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for minor variances from provisions of the zoning bylaw, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to create new lots. To ensure a fair and timely hearing, I will vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately and which applications require a more in-depth review. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda and ask if anyone other than the agent or the applicant is present in interest and wishes to address the committee. If there are people in interest, the matter will be held until all non-contested applications have been cleared from the agenda. If your item is held, we strongly advise you to meet with the interested parties outside the hearing room in an effort to resolve concerns or issues. If no person is present in interest, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if required. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into committee for decision. Each speaker, including the agent or applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. When addressing the committee, please come forward to the podium, clearly state your name and address, and file a decision request card to the committee staff. Those decision request cards are located at the end of the horseshoe here. If you have a written submission that you read from, please hand it to the Deputy Secretary Treasurer on my right when you are done. First, the applicant or agent will make a presentation to the committee of the application as submitted. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be allowed to speak. When an item is called, and if you're in support or opposition, would you please sit in these chairs to my left. If there are several speakers sharing the same view, please select a spokesperson to present the group's opinion. We want to hear your views, however, covering the same points will not advance your cause. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker at the end of their submission. When all speakers are finished, the applicant has an opportunity to rebut only the related issues that were raised. The matter will then be taken into committee for decision. This will mark the end of all discussion. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. If you do not agree with the committee's decision, you may file an appeal. In most cases, appeals will be dealt with by the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or TEY. For more information about TEY, please visit their website or the Committee of Adjustments website. Appeal instructions will be included at the bottom of the Committee of Adjustment decision. In order to receive a copy of the committee's decision and to be informed of all appeal proceedings, you must fill out the decision request form that I referred to earlier. Please include your email address, as TEY will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. And please leave your completed form with the Deputy Secretary Treasurer or a member of the staff seated on my right. Decisions of this committee will be issued within 3 business days. Okay, so could I have for confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll move adoption of the minutes.
I'll second that.
Thank you. So motion by Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Carlton for adoption of the minutes from the last meeting. All in favor? Okay, that's approved. Any declarations of interest for the 9 o'clock time slot? No? Okay. Madam Secretary, no closing of files. Any deferral requests in the opening time slot?
Yes, Madam Chair. Item number 1, the sign was not posted, so that's a deferral. Item number 2, 475 Unwin Avenue, there's a deferral request.
Okay.
And for item 16, 962 Coxwell Avenue, there's a deferral request.
Thank you. So is there anyone here for item number 2 or item number 16? Okay, so we'll deal with them in order, so just a moment, please. So firstly, members of the committee, item number 1. We've been informed that no notice of the hearing was posted.
Through you, Madam Chair, I would move deferral of the application, including recirculation fees.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
time to come back?
It'll be the standard maximum of 3 months.
Okay, so I have a motion from Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Carlson, for the matter to be deferred for a maximum of 3 months, subject to recirculation fees. All in favor? Okay, so that deferral is approved. Item number 2, 475 Unwin Avenue. You speak to the deferral request. Is there anyone here in interest for Unwin Avenue? Okay, if you could speak to the, if you could sit to the right, sir, and we'll just be dealing with the deferral request, please, at the moment.
My name is Anthony Greenberg. I'm the agent for the applicant. The applicant is Ports Toronto, who's been engaging in a great degree of consultation with different partners. One of those partners is Friends of Leslie Street Spit, and Mr. John Carley is here representing Friends of the Spit. And more conversations required with regards to the proposal to ensure that it's going to be implemented in a way which is acceptable to both parties. We were hoping we'd have the matters resolved by now, but just require a bit more time.
Okay, thank you. Sir, do you wish to speak to the deferral request, or are you?
We agree with the deferral request.
Okay. Your name and?
John Carley, and I am co-chair of Friends of the Spit. Carley is C-A-R-L-E-Y.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions, committee members?
No, it seems to me like it's a
Thank you.
fair,
Committee?
like a fair request. The opposing parties have agreed to defer. And so if there's no further submission from my colleagues, I'll move for approval of the deferral request for a maximum of 3 months.
With fees? With fees?
With fees, with circulation fees.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Okay, so that's a motion by Mr. Russell, seconded by Mr. Carlson for deferral of the application for a maximum of 3 months, subject to recirculation fees. All in favor? Your item's deferred.
Okay, thank
Please
you.
make sure you fill out, sir, a decision request form, so you'll get a copy. Thank you. Number 9, 234 Ashdale Avenue. Anyone here in interest? Could you come and sit to right? Thank you. Left, thank you. So we're just dealing with the deferral request now. Could I have your name and address, please?
My name is Jesse Stark. I'm from Lemcad Consultants. I'm here on behalf of the owners at 234 Ashdale.
Okay. And why are you seeking a deferral?
We received a letter from planning on the 24th of January advising removal of the internal garage and reducing the accessory structure to less than 5%. As a result, planning has recommended deferral or refusal. I'm here to ask for a deferral today, as we did not have enough time to render a new public notice, as removing the internal garage would probably render a parking variance.
Okay. Right. Anything else on the deferral request? Okay. Ma'am, would you like to come up, please, and just, if we could have your name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Noemi Morales, address 247 Ashdale.
And are you in favor of the matter being deferred?
I didn't understand what he said.
I think they're planning on planning had made some comments on the application. They want some time to consider those applications and likely revise their application. If the matter is referred and they submit a revised application, when the matter is ready for hearing, a new notice will go out indicating what their revisions are. And if another hearing would be called, and you'd have an opportunity to appear then to state any concerns that you have or any support you have for the project. So they're looking at making some changes in response to some comments that were raised by city planning staff. So they want some time to do that.
Oh, okay, I understand. Because I opposed to the parking, to the driveway,
Okay.
and I took a day off. I do understand that I could submit something by mail, but it's always not, I find that it's not the same. So I guess I have no choice but to.
Well, they're looking to change the application, so at this point of time, they're they're asking that they not proceed with what's currently before us.
Okay.
So it may be that there'll be an opportunity for you to also have some conversations with the applicant. Maybe the applicant will give that undertaking at this point to have some conversations before resubmitting. And, but you will get a new notice once new plans are submitted.
Oh, okay,
And
great.
if
So
you're-
I will get a new notice.
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
With the new changes.
Yeah, with
All
any
right, great,
changes.
thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so in committee, members?
Given the applicant is interested in complying with what planning is asking for, I would grant the deferral.
I would second that for a maximum of 3 months with the understanding that the applicant, that Mr. Stark will also be meeting with the resident who is here.
And including recirculation fees.
Okay, so that's a motion from Mr. Carlson, seconded by Ms. Omen, for approval for 3 months plus fees to allow for the revised application and for the applicant or their agent to speak to the resident who is present at the committee today. All in favor? Your deferral is approved.
Thank you.
Number 16, 962 Coxwell Avenue. Agent or applicant can come up. Anyone here in interest on that application? Okay, thank you. Your name, please, sir.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Christian Chan. I'm the land use planner for the applicant.
And the reason that you're seeking the deferral?
Subsequent to my review and the city planning staff's review, we've entered discussions with the city, and we're requesting deferral based on the concerns they've raised in their report. And we have a meeting with city staff next week in which we're going to continue our discussions to address their concerns and revise the proposal.
Okay, thank you. Members?
Are you ready for a motion?
Yes.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, I would move deferral of the application for a maximum of 3 months, including recirculation fees.
I will second.
Okay, so motion by Ms. Omen, seconded by Mr. Carlson for a deferral for up to 3 months with recirculation fees. All in favor? Your item's deferred.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to go back to the agenda then to vet it. So number 3, 276 Carlton Street, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Number 4, 532 Richmond Street East, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Number 5, 326 Glen Manor Drive, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Number 6, 20 Wheeler Avenue, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Number 7, 118 Berkeley Street, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Number 8, 644 Rhodes Avenue, agent or applicant? 644 Rhodes. Okay. Number 10, 12, yes. Oh, you're here in interest? Okay, so we'll hold that and we'll come back to see if when the agent comes. Thank you, sir. Number 10, 12 Beaton Avenue, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Number 11, 88 Leroy Avenue, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Number 12, 1089 Broadview Avenue, agent or applicant? Thank you. Anyone in interest? Ma'am, you had, did you put your hand up, ma'am? Yes, I did. For 1089? Okay, so you're together? Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you. Number 13, 70 Chester Avenue, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Number 14, 83 Cairns Avenue, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Number 15, 24 Bellwoods Avenue, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Number 17, 15 York Street, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Number 18, 111 and a half to Grassi Street, agent or applicant? Anyone in interest? Okay, thank you. So at this point of time, no matters are stood down except for number 8 while we're waiting for the agent or applicant to appear. So we'll start with number 3, 276 Carlton Street, please. And may we have your name and address, please?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is David Smith. I'm here representing the homeowners at 276 Carlton Street.
Thank you.
Before you is a fairly straightforward minor application. Let me know if the committee would like a presentation or has any questions.
Members, do we need a presentation or questions? Mr. Russell? Okay, sorry, number 3.
Yes, I do have questions, Mr.
Okay, so we'll proceed to questions.
Sure.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I'm concerned about the depth you're looking for, which is beyond the 14 meters. Variance number 2, you're looking for 18.24 meters. How does that stand with regards to the other property in Carlton?
Great question. So the 3 of these buildings are identical. The vast majority of the building is actually 14 meters. It's a front brick bay window that pushes it forward about 2 meters at the front. And for this center middle building, they've got a 5-foot rear shed addition that we're trying to rehabilitate that they've used, but it's in terrible condition. So that's what pushes it to the variance that you see in front of you. It's an addition that's existing, it's on the ground floor level, and beyond that, these 3 buildings are identical in depth.
So the new development will keep the depth identical with the other?
Identically the same, yeah. We're basically replacing the existing addition because it's in terrible shape, but it's always projected that far. It's only on the ground floor level, and in every other regard, these 3 buildings are identical.
You're moving your landscape. Your landscape,
Is exceptionally low, yeah. It's the existing condition.
It's the existing condition.
We're not changing anything.
Those are my questions.
Any other questions, members? Thank you. I'll go into committee. Comment or motion, discussion or motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, both of the adjacent neighbors support this application, and as the applicant has explained, these houses are identical. In terms of the deck, there are several decks on Metcalf that appear to be second-story decks. I think that what's being proposed fits within the context of the neighborhood, meets the 4 tests, and if there's no other comments, I would move approval.
Any other comments or a seconder?
Is there plans of submitted from planning on this?
Sorry?
Planning submitted?
No, there was a heritage email, that's it. And they were okay with it.
Planning had no comments.
There were no comments from planning or any other department.
I will second it.
Okay.
So we have a motion by Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Carlson for approval of the application. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you.
Item number 4, 532 Richmond Street West. Could we have your name and address, please?
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Anthony Del Grosso, 406 Horsham Avenue, and I'm the agent for 532 Richmond Street.
Thank you very much. Members of the committee, do we need an application or question? Presentation? Presentation, or can we move to questions? Question? Okay. Any questions?
I'm just concerned, sir, that there's 2 parking spaces required here. Why do you not require, why are you not proceeding with 2 parking spaces?
Well, the property is on Richmond Street, and I don't believe there's ever been parking there. I actually have a email here from Councillor Grassi that states that that this is probably zoning bylaw that was left over from another era and doesn't reflect how people live today. And the historical buildings never had this parking really available.
You have a correspondence from Councillor
I do.
Grassi?
I have it here.
Will you file that, sir?
Yeah.
I will.
Okay, please. Thank you. questions?
No other questions from me.
Thank you, sir. We're in committee. Discussion or motion?
Just would like to see council questions,
Certainly.
correspondence before.
It's in the middle on the front and blue, basically. That's just our letter to him.
Second paragraph.
Having reviewed the council's letter, Madam Chair, I'm in agreement that the application itself is indeed minor, and I'd move for approval of this application in that it meets 4 tests and it is in accordance with the Planning Act.
Any other discussion or a seconder for that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. So a motion from Mr. Russell, seconded by Ms. Oman, to approve the application. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you.
Item number 5, 326 Glen Manor Drive.
Good
For
morning
the record,
again.
could we have your name, please?
Good morning again, Madam Chair, members of committee. My name is David Smith. I'm here representing the homeowners at 326 Glen Manor Drive. Before you, again, is a very straightforward minor application. We have support from both neighbors. There are no issues raised by planning, and it is exceptionally in keeping with the neighborhood. Happy to answer any questions.
So, members of the committee, would you like a presentation or proceed to
Just
questions?
one question.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Smith, your variance number 1, 2, and 3, you're seeking exterior main wall heights which are 2 meters higher than required, 1.5 meters, variance number 2. Variance number 3, it's 2 meters higher. How does that fit in with the character of the neighborhood, the house around it?
They're all very similar. I mean, if you've had a chance to review the elevations, effectively it's the shape of the dormer. So this is, again, we're trying to keep it in line with the sort of current language of the neighborhood. If you look at the proposed elevations, you'll see that the overall shape of the dormer generates these variances, but they're not sort of substantial. It's not sort of a box that's raised completely on all 4 sides to those heights. It's just the extreme height at different points in sort of the arc of the dormer. So they've taken the tallest point. So they're, I mean, again, they are variances, but they're, I mean, within all sort of frames of reference, quite reasonable if you have a chance to look at the elevations. With regards to the other variances, they're predominantly generated because we're building over the existing footprint of the building, which is non-conforming in some of the setbacks.
What is the current FSI?
Current FSI is 174.42 square meters, and we're adding about 72 square meters, 700 and something square feet to the 3rd floor. And I guess further to that point, with regards to the size of houses in this neighborhood, very much similar sizes, proportions. Obviously, in other applications, you know, I'd be happy to find examples from previous decisions. As there was no correspondence from planning, I have to assume that they agree with this assessment. Otherwise, they would have asked for examples of sort of something in the 0.66 range for the overall FSI.
Any further questions? Thank you. We're in committee. Discussion or motion?
Would have liked to see some examples of 0.66, but it's not exceedingly high for the area from my recollection. And in terms of the dimensions and massing, I agree that this is designed in such a way that the additional mass is sensitive, will fit in. So I am prepared to move approval.
So a motion to approve the application by Mr. Carlson, seconded by Ms. Omen. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you very much.
Number 6, 20 Wheeler Avenue. Presentation, it's okay. Just going to hold down just for 1 second. Is the agent or applicant here for 644 Rhodes Avenue? Have they arrived? Okay, okay. You have a gentleman in the front row here who's here in interest. If I could ask that you put your hand up, sir, please. Stand divided. And if you could just go outside and have a discussion, and we'll hold that matter down until you come back, until the end of the other uncontested items. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Sorry, your name, please.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Fong, architect and agent for the owners at 20 Wheeler, sorry.
Thank you. Panel members, do you need a presentation or do you wish to proceed to questions?
Questions?
Okay. Any questions?
The addition, will it line up with the house next door?
The house next door, in terms of the rear facade, it will be shorter than the house to the north, but it will be slightly longer to the house to the south, if that makes sense.
And in terms of FSI, it'll be about the same as the one?
Yes, exactly. It's just an addition to the rear on the 2 stories, which is bringing the FSI higher than allowable. We're going to be over by 34 square meters.
Okay. Any other questions, panel members?
Yeah. The stairs, the deck, your width that you should have is 2 meters. You're looking at getting 4.97. Why do you need 4.9?
Yes, so the thoughts behind the stairs is that the homeowners wanted a sort of more cohesive interior to exterior relationship. So by bringing the stairs across the full width of the deck, which is the same width as the house, they won't have any guardrails to sort of obstruct any views if you're sitting from the inside. Hence the width in the stairs, which is causing a variance.
So so what you're saying is that your stairs will go the full length of the house, of the deck?
The full width.
Width.
Yeah, of the deck, which aligns with the house itself. Yeah, there's a site plan that kind of shows in condition, if you like, on A100.
Thank you. So we're in committee. Discussion or motion, please?
Madam Chair, I've been reviewed and here the applicant presentation. I'm satisfied that the matter has met the 4 tests, is indeed minor, and so I would move for approval.
Do you have a seconder?
I will.
So motion by Mr. Russell, seconded by Mr. Carlson for approval of the application. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you very much.
Number 7, 118 Berkeley Street. Good morning. Could we have your name?
Good morning, committee. My name is Zoran Tirnanik, and I'm the applicant.
Thank you. Members of the committee, do you need a presentation, or can we proceed to questions? Okay. Any questions, committee members?
Mr. Your deck, you're seeking to have a tiki bar.
Yeah, it's how they call it. I don't know why. Yeah. It's just a wood structure, 3x3, and it's open. Just has a roof on top.
Yes. Now, you're looking to have your hot tub, which is going to be 4.49 meters from the north side lot line. What do you have to?
The issue is that the property doesn't have any setbacks. It's almost zero on three sides, and the zoning requires 7.5 meter on all three sides.
Right.
So there is no way you can meet. Wherever you put it, you will be violating zoning, because once you put 7.3 from three sides, there is no space left. So wherever you put it, it will be violating the zoning.
So wherever you go with your tubby, it's going to violate the zoning bylaw.
Yeah, so the deck is existing. There is no outdoor space. That's the only outdoor space for the family of 3 children, and that's the only basically space you can go out. If you look at the site, there is 0 lot line on 3 sides. The deck is approved and it's existing.
The deck is existing?
Yeah, it's existing, yeah. It's
yeah, from the variance before. That's my question.
Any other questions? Thank you. We're in committee. Discussion or motion, please.
Madam Chair, this, in my opinion, this has no impact on the surrounding
we also have a
buildings.
We're in committee now, sir. Thank you.
Several of the neighborhoods, our neighbors rather, that surround it are supporting this application. Again, there's parking in the back. There really is no impact, so I think that what's being proposed is reasonable if it's within the context of the neighborhood, and I'd be prepared to move approval.
So that's a motion?
Yeah, that would be, my motion would be to approve the application, as I think it meets the 4 tests.
I would agree. If we were looking at variances for the deck itself, or if we had objections, I'd have concerns here, but as the application stands, this is very minor to me, so I will second.
So we have a motion by Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Carlson for approval of the application. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you.
So number 10, 12 Beaton Avenue. Could we have your name and address, please, sir?
Jay Smith, I'm the agent for 12 Beaton.
As members of the committee, do we need a presentation, or do you want to proceed to questions?
Questions, if there are any?
Any questions, committee members? No questions? Mr. Russell, any questions?
No question.
Okay, no questions? Thank you. We're in committee. Discussion or motion, please?
This, to me, is extremely minor and has no substantial impact on the character of the area, so I would move approval unless there's any further comment.
Do I have a seconder for that? Second. Okay, so motion by Mr. Carlson, seconded by Ms. Oman for approval of the application. All in favor? Thank you. Your application's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 11, 88 Leroy Avenue.
Good afternoon, committee.
Good afternoon. Could we have your name and address, please?
Jonathan Miskowski, I'm here as the agent for the owners of the property.
Are you aware of the planning report?
I am.
The transportation report?
I am.
Okay, you still want to go ahead with?
I do. I do.
Okay.
So, if you'd like to start with your presentation then?
Yes, so in terms of the 2 city reports submitted, there should be a revised report received yesterday from transportation that actually removes their objection to the proposal. So a little bit of confusion with how this transpired on this property itself. Transportation was not aware that the house is actually constructed with a building permit as it sits today. Transportation believed we were proposing to actually increase the existing width of the driveway. The driveway width that is there today is what existed pre-renovation of this dwelling. This is somewhat of a unique circumstance where this dwelling was actually built as of right with a building permit. There was no planning approval via Committee of Adjustment for minor variance for the renovation and top-up of the bungalow. So the setbacks from the front and both sides are what exists. The driveway at the front is actually what existed pre-renovation. So what basically has happened is when they went in for the building permit, there was some minor alterations that took place to this front portion of the landscaping here. This actual driveway portion here is how it has always existed on the dwelling pre-renovation that was built as of right. Now we can see here, we have the existing curb cut. So the existing bungalow that was on the property as we can see here, has this identical situation as it exists today. So previously, parking was located at the rear of the site through a garage that has been since demolished. This passed through here, and the driveway width itself is exactly as it exists. Now, when I spoke to transportation, they didn't understand that there was a house that was renovated that was built. So the updated report from transportation should remove their objection to the proposal. In terms of planning wanted the restoration of the side portion of the dwelling that has always been paved. There is no variance today for that side portion. In addition, the adjacent dwelling to this property owns 3 feet of this portion of the existing driveway. That's not even owned by the present owner. So what they were looking for was added green space within this portion here that has always existed. So in terms of the driveway width itself, what happened was when they went for the building permit, they thought, okay, we're going to actually move the curb cut to where the entrance is for the garage. I know it's very convoluted how it's arrived at this. So initially the idea was to move the curb cut, as you can see in the planning staff report. The owners don't have a desire to move that curb cut. The curb cut would remain as it is, and the actual driveway width itself would stay exactly as it was pre-construction of the top-up of the bungalow that has the building permit issued. Now, in terms of the character of this neighborhood, the adjacent dwelling to the south, where we just went over that 3-foot portion, has the exact same situation with the parking with the driveway in front and the existing drive aisle to the rear. What makes this so unique is it's not a new build. If this were a new build, most likely that setback at the south wouldn't be the 2.47 meters. That would have been pushed further to the south, which would have created a larger home, which would have removed that side yard area that exists, as well as the drive aisle. So because it's a renovation...
So they want to come in on an angle?
Well, that's what the city planning is asking them to do, is to take... So we wanted to leave the curb cut where it is. City planning is saying, well, let's remove the curb cut, and you pay to relocate the curb cut to have a new driveway. The actual driveway is exactly as it existed pre-construction. There is no change to the width of the driveway. The only change is to the front yard landscaping, which was just to have an interlock pathway to take you from the sidewalk itself. So in terms of the look of the dwelling in landscaping and driveway in the front, it is essentially unchanged. The confusion comes with it being a renovation and not a new dwelling. And I have a lot more photos also of what's there and what has been there.
Could I ask you to put up the photo of the existing circumstance?
Yes.
The new build, please. Yeah.
this dwelling adjacent has also been topped up through a renovation, which, like I said, has the exact same driveway situation and garage today.
Okay, so-
And I do have a photo of that.
So can I see currently what current day is? You had it up before, I just,
It's easier if I go back into it rather than cycling through.
it's fine. Yeah, I just was trying to, the actual photograph versus the.
This is the new dwelling.
Okay, the one with the walkway, I'm sorry, was looking the whole front? You showed something originally.
Was it a plan or a photo?
I think it was a plan, the first
Oh, the
one
site
you
plan.
showed. No, it was, it had the interlock showing
Oh, okay.
in actually a, sorry, unless it was mine.
This?
No, but that's okay.
Why don't I just cycle through?
All right, it's okay. It's okay, that's fine.
With respect to your site plan, I see that there is an angled drive of the width of your integral garage marked on the plan. Why is that not what you're proposing?
That is the proposal.
Why do you want to retain the rest of this paving?
Because you have to get into the driveway from the curb cut. The curb cut is existing to take you into the driveway. The problem is, if you're coming along south along Leroy, there's no way you would be able to get into the driveway if they were to say you have to come in at an angle to get into your garage. The retaining of the hardscape in the front is exactly as it exists in terms of the driveway itself. That angle wouldn't be achievable to come in as you travel south along Leroy Avenue.
Thank you.
So you want to maintain that, why do you want to maintain the paving?
The paving, well, one is to park an additional car at the south side of the dwelling, which has always been there. The other one is to not have to relocate the curb cut itself. Because if we look at...
But previously, you were able only to park one car in front, is that correct?
You would have technically have been on the city boulevard, but like most people probably, when it was the existing bungalow, would have parked.
Okay, so now your existing condition is you have the driveway to the integral garage
Yes.
and paving
Correct.
beside it.
Which
So
is
you're
exact-
parking two cars on the front.
Yes, but it wouldn't be within the city boulevard itself. So this, in terms of this, the angled portion here, to be able to access the parking coming off of the south, if we were to remove all that, we wouldn't be able to have that area to access.
Okay, but they were suggesting you move the curb cut.
The city is correct.
Yes.
Correct. And again, as I mentioned, this is exactly what has taken place at the dwelling to the south.
Does this mean that, should we approve this, that there will be zero landscaping available there?
No, we have added some landscaping along the north portion that I did put in with a waiver a couple of days ago after talking to planning.
January 25th.
Yeah, so what we've done is along the north portion, we have added landscaping within presently there is landscaping. It's essentially on the city boulevard itself, which is, again, how this has always existed. The problem is when it became a renovation, when they got the building permit, it triggered this to get the final clearance. The actual look of the house today was exactly as it existed before in terms of landscaping.
So how much landscaping would we get now with your present?
We have about 5.5 square meters within the property itself. If you take out the city boulevard, which does, again, retain what has always been there.
Which gets to what in terms of a percentage?
In percentage, it gets us essentially back to the existing of what was there, which is 31.65%. There's not a whole lot of area between the boulevard and the actual front wall of the dwelling itself.
Can you illustrate on a plan where that landscaping?
Yep. Right here, we have the existing driveway. We have a
Okay, I
walkway,
see.
And then the grass area would be up here. So much like a typical house, you'd have a walkway that came from the street, and then some grass area and landscaping adjacent to it.
So since there's no longer, there's not a garage in the back, what's the need to have the asphalt remain as it is?
Well, the idea was it's a single mother who's going to be living in the dwelling. She has her parents that would come to help her. It would offer them the additional car park adjacent to it in the dwelling. But additionally, again, 3 feet of that asphalt is actually owned by that adjacent neighbor there. It really is only 2.47 meters that is owned by that property. And there is also a side entrance that comes off of that portion of the dwelling. This is not a portion of Leroy which has a lot of front yard landscaping typically in most dwellings. Most dwellings do park in front of the front wall, and the houses that were renovated that had the initial garages at the rear, they essentially look exactly as this one proposed. In fact, I can just quickly show you the adjacent house next door, which had the renovation, which has the same situation here where it has the car park. This is the subject property over here. This is the redeveloped house to the south. Here they have the same kind of breezeway paved area that goes to the rear. Both of these houses are unique again because they weren't built as new dwellings. They were built as renovations, which kept the sidewalls and didn't seek any permissions from it. So if the house you were to look at the house as it was today, the dwelling itself complies with the entire zoning bylaw. It would only be the 2 variances that are requested before you today.
Did the adjacent house have variances similar to this?
So I did find the adjacent house. It was a very weird situation. It actually went to the OMB. So they had a building permit. I couldn't find the actual decision, but I did find the OMB portion where they built the house too high, as per what was issued. I don't know what they had for landscaping, but they would have been predated 5/69/2013. It was the OMB appeal I found was in 2013. So I don't think they would have got a board decision and everything predating 5/69/2013. All I could find was they built it too high as per the issued building permit plans.
So you're saying that this wasn't caught when you made your request for an initial building permit?
I wasn't a part of the initial building permit process. The initial building permit process had them moving everything with the driveway itself.
So they chose not to comply with the building permit?
Madam Chair, it's an odd situation. If you don't change the front yard landscaping of a dwelling, you're not subject to any of the zoning bylaw. So if they would have come in with it being existing exactly as it was, it would have been fine, and they would have been able to proceed. The problem was they said we were going to move it. Once they moved it and got the building permit, now when they went back for a new review, they looked at the building permit and said, well, you have a building permit that moved it. Whereas if in the beginning we had left everything the same, it wouldn't have triggered a variance, much like non-compliant side yard setbacks, right? So front yard landscaping, if it is non-compliant, at the time you don't change anything, you're okay. So the driveway width would have been in compliance because it wasn't being changed.
Well, it would have been existing.
It would have been existing, correct. Yes, sorry. It would have been existing and would not have been changed.
Existing and compliant.
Yes, yes. So it wouldn't have triggered anything at that point.
Well.
So this is the revised site plan is the one we're dealing with today then?
Correct.
The one you want us to approve?
Correct, with the added front yard landscaping.
Okay. Any other questions, panel members? Okay. Thank you. Moved into committee. Discussion or motion?
Seeing the additional section of softscaping proposed on the revision, I still find myself agreeing with planning that there is no planning rationale to maintain the paving on the south side, that the percentage of hardscaping in the front is untenable. this is not, this, I mean, this goes beyond a character issue. This is about drainage. This an objective here beyond character. And I don't see any necessity, which is not a requirement here, but the, I'm not comfortable with the soft landscaping. I'd be prepared to move a refusal, or, yeah, I would have to move a refusal. I could see the driveway width being possible, but we don't have plans for that in a format that I would be able to support. So.
Other comments? We're in committee. Sorry, Sarah.
I'm of mixed minds. There are other examples, not just the one next door, that have similar conditions. I do agree with the objectives of the city to have the softscape for the drainage, as Mr. Carlson outlined. However, this is a top-up.
Sorry, excuse me, sir. Are we prepared to go out of committee?
If you want, Madam Chair.
Okay, sir, we'll go out of committee for a moment. Please come forward and put your name and state your name, please. Please come up to the microphone, sir. Anything further than what your agent has already indicated?
This world was building on family. My daughter owned the house, and she's a divorced, a single family with 2 twins, 4 years old, and 1 5. The husband, he was an American, he took off, and me and my wife, we look after the kids. So we have to move in, me and my wife, and I have to bring in my other son, which we have 4 cars. And we're here for the family to support. If I'm living far away, if I don't move in with my daughter, she cannot go to work, it's going to be a disaster. Everything was built for the family. Everybody works for the family. I understand this and that. I respect the law, but we have 4 cars and we need the extra. Existing driveway was in the south side. So I leave it to you people. I have nothing else to say.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay,
we're back in committee.
As I was saying, I am of mixed minds because there are other examples of similar conditions, not just the adjacent house. There's at least 1 or 2 other ones on the street. I do respect the comments made by planning as well as Mr. Carlson. I do think, soft landscape wherever possible should be enhanced. I don't know if there would be a way to maybe, since the cars are going to angle the pathway a little bit more to bring in a little additional landscaping. But I am of mixed minds on this because I don't feel it's out of character in the neighborhood.
I mean, if we were to speak to possible solutions, moving the cut is the appropriate from a planning perspective. But I would point out that while I hear the owner's need, there are not 4 legal parking spaces here, and that is not a desirable condition either. This property should not have 4 cars on it. I mean, we have to look at the application we have in front of us, and the planning rationale I'm hearing is undesirable and not meeting the objectives.
This application kind of bothers me from the beginning. I would have hoped that the presenter would have provided us with integral information about other properties that fit the scope of what's going on here. What's presented before us is not acceptable in that it doesn't give us a plan rationale to be able to address this. As committee members, our job is to review what's ever there and what's ever is presented. I did not feel satisfied with this particular application, so I think I'd support Mr. Carlson on this matter.
So, if someone's prepared to move a motion?
All right. In that case, Madam Chair, I would move refusal of the application as I believe it to be undesirable and outside the purpose of the zoning bylaw. As amended, yes.
Seconder for that
Seconded.
motion?
Seconded.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Russell. I have a motion from Mr. Carlson, seconded by Mr. Russell, to refuse the application as amended. All in favor? Dissent? Okay. Your application's refused.
Thank you.
Please do fill out a decision request form.
Yes. Yes, I abstained. Thank you. No problem. Yeah. Okay. Okay, number 12, 1089 Broadview Avenue.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just before we start, sorry I hadn't done this previously, my error. The committee has before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevation. A letter from Alex Perlman, the applicant, correspondence from Development Coordinator, Traffic Planning and Transportation Services, staff report from the Manager of Traffic Planning, Transportation Services, 4 form letters in support, and 3 form letters in opposition. Your name, please?
Alex Perlman. I'm the owner through my corporation.
Thank you.
And I do have, can I say something?
Yes.
I do have a letter of support from a neighbor who had wanted to be here, but she's a manager. She was called into work, so I'd like to give these to you.
Okay, if you could hand it to staff, and they'll pass it along to us. Thank you very much.
Very good. How many copies do you need? 4? 1 for the file and 3 for them, or how many do you want?
We can share. It's
We
fine.
can share. Committee members, do we need a presentation?
No.
Or questions?
I would like to share a little bit of background before the questions, if you don't mind.
Certainly, go ahead.
Thanks. So I've been living in the area, or actually 3 blocks to the south of this property, for 35 years. The preceding 8 years, 7 of those within 3 blocks. I've been teaching dance for the last 11 years and traveling across town to Dovercourt, which is quite a drive. And when I saw this property available, I researched whether I could create the dance space there. It's a commercial residential zoning. So I met with the area planner and looked at various options. Broadview Avenue Planning Study allows for a 6-story building. We looked at that option. The zoning allows for a 3-story building. It would be a variance, what we're applying for, which is a 1-story. And I had met with the neighbor. He was concerned about the view. That was the one concern that he expressed. In fact, I showed them plans for the 3-story and so on. And he wrote back, let me just provide this. So he wrote back and said his one concern was about the view and also that it's a commercial space. Well, that's an allowed use. But I was concerned about the view, and you don't need to read through all that, but I wrote him back and said, well, I understand you don't want change, but actually if you oppose this, I was looking for support from him. But I said, if you oppose this, you're going to actually have a worse view, because by the bylaws, I'm allowed to build a 3-story building, which we have plans for, which we can show you, and that would block his view entirely. And we have a drawing also that shows the view, that they still have most of their view there. So in terms of the parking, I had discussed prior to the purchase to make sure that I could be able to build there, and I spoke with the area person who's responsible for parking and transportation, and he assured me that we could do off-site parking, and at that point, he didn't know how many spaces. He wanted to see the plans, which we hadn't developed yet. Subsequently, he decided that 5 spaces would be sufficient, notwithstanding the bylaw, and he filed that letter last October. And then I asked him if he could agree to terms that if the committee sees to approve it, that they can include a condition that I have to provide evidence of the parking prior to a building permit. So he filed that earlier this month on the 14th. I think that's the background. I have my planner here and my architect if you want a presentation, but if you just want to move to questions, that's fine as well. And with your questions, they have materials that they can show. So whatever you prefer is, we're happy to provide.
So you are going to secure the off-site parking?
Yes, you have a letter on file January 14th where he provides the conditions that are required off-site and that it has to be approved by his department prior to issuance of a building permit. Also, it should be noted that before I can build any building there, I have to get site plan approval. So they'll be looking at any other issues having to do with the building before it can be allowed.
And the intention is that those parking spaces not be entirely dedicated to the residential, yes? So there will be the visitor space?
You know, a lot of the people, so that's a 6-unit apartment building, and a lot of those people have just relied on public transport. So it would be a combination of the residential and the commercial, and that was what the transportation person said. In fact, he said, if you can't find 5, I'd be happy to consider reducing it by 1 or 2, but in his letter, he specified 5, so we can just keep it simple and leave that as the condition.
Do you have that arranged already?
No, I told him, because I'm not doing this immediately, and that's why we want to make this as a condition rather than having signed a lease and paying money when it's not required yet. And that lease would be running and it could expire. So he agreed that it's fine to have the committee provided as a condition of approval that satisfactory arrangements are made before a building permit would be issued.
Had you seen the letter of opposition from residents at 1083 Broadview?
Yes, I studied them extensively, and in fact, the one neighbor I had met with prior to this application, and then I met with them again, the owner and the son and his wife. The son and the wife live there, and the owner lives nearby. And I met with them, I sent them plans, and it was in response to, and I was asking for their letter of support, because I think it's actually beneficial to them, given that the variance is for the 1-story instead of the 3, and the 1-story will show you how the view is not greatly impeded by the 1-story. So yes, I met with them, I read their letters. Basically, you can see there in his response when I was asking, so are you going to support it? Then he wrote that back to me, and he said he was really concerned about the view. Of course, he added a bunch of other things in order to get the committee to deny the application, and you'll see the wording with the neighbors. A lot of the wording is duplicated, like where you see dark and something related to the side yard setback and so on. There's a lot of repetitive language, so I'm not sure really that it was all of them saying that other than to support him, but anyway. I met with them. I'm trying to do the best thing for them, otherwise I could do a 3-story building, which my architect likes better, but personally I do like the 1-story version. And we could show you both. We have both plans here, but the 3-story would block his view entirely, and at the very least, I'd like to show you the drawing that demonstrates that and demonstrates the view that he will have with the 1-story.
I think we have that as part.
No, it hasn't been filed.
Okay.
We can just put it on the overhead if you
Well,
like.
you're only here requesting the 1-story, right?
Exactly.
So then we'll just deal with what you're requesting.
Right, because we don't need a variance for the 3-story.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you. We're in committee discussion or motion.
I am comfortable with this, with the parking condition as requested by planning, with the caveat that I suggest that perhaps we include that in the condition that at least one of the parking spaces be dedicated to dance studio use. I look at the parking variances and the condition, and I'm seeing it's quite possible these could all be rented to the residential component, and the lack of parking for the residential is an existing condition. The commercial use, I think, really will need parking. I don't think it's likely to be a problem, but I think specifying it might be.
I don't know if I should say anything, but I'd be happy with that.
We're in committee right
Oh,
now.
okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I don't have a problem with that condition. I'm not sure who's going to police that. Exactly, so
What about accessible parking?
that might make more, like to have one dedicated as an accessible spot. Because if you're thinking predominantly visitors, then that might.
One should be provided.
Can I just ask Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer a question on that? If we put a condition in for an accessible spot, then will transportation oversee that as part of the approval? With the condition, no?
Can I make a comment about that?
No. Okay.
And
The accessible was addressed. Can I make a comment about that?
We're in committee, sir.
Okay.
Can't.
Sorry. Excuse me.
I'm not actually sure what the definition of an accessible space is.
Well, it's usually a bit wider, so that may
may be difficult to
impede the other
secure.
ones as well, so I don't know.
That's my thought on that is that may be actually difficult to find physically.
Okay, well, I'm comfortable with the application in terms of the structure, fitting into the neighborhood. If I don't have a problem with the condition, making one for the dance studio, if you want to do that.
I mean, maybe we should just leave it as is, keep it simple and as it is able to be enforced.
I'm happy to support whatever motion you want to make on it.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, I need a motion.
Okay, so my motion would be to approve the application, subject to the condition in the January 26th planning report, adding the words including at least one space to be reserved for use of the dance performing arts studio is the word used. To be inserted after 5 parking spaces. At least one of them is to be reserved for use of the dance studio, for use of the performing arts studio.
So a motion from Mr. Carlson to approve the application subject to the January 26th planning report, plus including that there be one spot reserved for the performing arts studio. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Ms. Omen. All in favor? Your application is approved.
Thank you so much, and my apologies for not following the etiquette.
Oh, do they? Oh, okay. Number 13, 70 Chester Avenue. While you're coming up, I'll read what the committee has before. A copy of a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Email correspondence from the Assistant Planner, Community Planning, City Planning, Toronto and East York District, and correspondence in support or no opposition from Marianne and Mars Grassi at 68 Chester Avenue. If we could please have your name, sir, and address.
Good morning. My name is David Lang, 2100 Bloor Street West. I'm the agent for the application. I'm here today with the owners. Happy to answer any questions you might have for them.
So committee members, do you need a presentation or would you like to proceed to questions? Okay, any questions then?
Yeah. Mr. Lang, oh, your clock is 34 minutes. Mr. Lang, exterior main wall height of is more than 2 meters beyond that, which is required by the, well, it's approximately 2 meters beyond what's required by the bylaw.
Sorry, I'm having troubles.
The exterior, the height of exterior main wall.
That's existing.
Is existing?
Yes, we're just the third floor addition part is just extending that roof line back.
Okay.
Any other questions, committee members?
Would be it for me.
Okay. Thank you. We're in committee. Discussion or motion, please.
Through you, Madam Chair, there are a lot of additions in this neighborhood. There's a laneway in the rear that has lots of garages on it that vary in size. I think that this proposal fits the character of the neighborhood, meets the 4 tests, so I would move approval, assuming there are no other comments.
Motion by Ms. Oman to approve the application. Do you have a seconder?
A second.
Seconded by Mr. Russell. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thanks very much.
Number 14, 83 Cairns Avenue. If you please come forward, please. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from Paul and Sharon Matthews, 3 photographs of the subject property, email correspondence from the acting coordinator, right-of-way management, transportation services, Toronto and East York District, and staff report from the manager, right-of-way management, transportation services, Toronto and East York District. Can we have your name, please?
Sure. I'm Sharon Matthews. I'm the homeowner. I also have copies of signatures of support from our neighbors, including both of our next-door neighbors.
If you could hand them to staff, please, that would be great. Thank you. Committee members, do we need a presentation, or would you like to proceed to questions? Any questions?
Ms. Matthews, the parking space on the front yard, how does that fit in with the rest of the neighborhood?
It's in line with the rest of the neighborhood. So we have an existing driveway and we have an existing parking space. The current parking space, though, is in the back of the house, and the renovation would encroach into that space. So we wanted to move that parking space to the front of the house. All of our neighbors on Cairns and the surrounding neighborhoods either have a shared driveway where they park in front of their house, or a dedicated private driveway where they park in the same area. We did apply for front pad parking with the city, but unfortunately, because there's street parking available in our neighborhood, we weren't actually allowed to apply for that spot. So when I talked to Marilyn from the right-of-way management transportation services, she suggested we apply to have it on private property, and you'll see in the final report from right-of-way management that they don't object to our parking space.
Any other questions, panel members? Mr. Russell, any further questions? Okay. Thank you very much. We're in committee. Discussion or motion, please.
I move for approval of this application that meet the 4 tests. There's an open space beside the present facility. It doesn't detach from the character of the neighborhood, and so I'm satisfied that it's minor, and I move for approval.
So motion for Mr. Russell for approval of the application. Do I have a seconder?
Sure.
Seconded by Mr. Carlson. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you.
Number 1524 Bellwoods Avenue. Committee has before a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Good morning. Can we have your name, sir, please?
Good morning, Madam Chairman and members. I'm Roman Dykin, the husband of the applicant. I have with me 2 letters of support from the immediate adjoining neighbors. We're number 24, so I have a letter of support from number 22 and number 26.
Thank you very much. Panel members, do we need a presentation or questions? Okay.
I think this is very minor, Madam Chair.
Any questions then, panel members?
I want to ask a question.
Okay. Mr. Russell?
The exterior main wall, you're seeking a height of 9.3 meters. What's there presently?
Well, this is a wall height that matches the height of the existing side gable. And it'll only occur for a portion of the side wall and not the entire length.
Just the side wall only?
That's correct.
What's behind you? Is it a house at 421 immediately behind you?
Do you mean immediately behind the property?
Yes.
It's a house that is fronting on Goreville.
Yeah. And your height won't distract or detract from
That's correct, sir.
the other side.
The roof line will remain the same.
Oh.
The present height will not be changed.
Any further questions, any members?
No.
Okay. Thank you. We're in committee. Discussion or a motion?
Yeah, go ahead. Are you speaking?
Okay. Yeah, it's Madam Chair, I've been gotten the response of the applicant with regards to the height meeting the main walls and the main area of the house. I'm satisfied that the application itself is indeed minor, and so I move for approval.
So that's a motion for Mr. Russell for approval, seconded by Ms. Oman. All in favor? Your application's approved.
Thank you.
So number 17, 15 York Street. The committee has before it a copy of a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from Michael Fedoric, covering letter from Michael Jameson, both the agents. Previous decisions of the Committee of Adjustment affecting the subject property, staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York District, correspondence in opposition on behalf of York Quay Neighborhood Association. Could we have your name, please?
Michael Foderick, F-O-D-E-R-I-C-K.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Foderick, do you work for a law firm?
I do.
Which firm?
McCarthy Tatro.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the law firm.
Sure.
I didn't want a conflict.
Oh, you have a conflict with other firms?
No, not with other
mine,
firms.
though.
Not,
Okay, perfect. I'm the lawyer for the applicant. Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment is my client. They are part owners of York Bremner Developments, which is at 15 York Street. This is for a patio, and you can see it on the photo. It's on the screen there at the southeast corner of York and Bremner. It's for a restaurant called 11. It's a restaurant that's had this patio for about 11 years, and 3 times we've been before the Committee of Adjustment, 3 times it's been unanimously approved. Hopefully we're here for the 4th and final time.
Have you seen the staff report?
I have. The staff, we support the recommendations in there. The staff indicate they have no concerns. They recommend 3 conditions. We support those. Those are totally fine with us. They're consistent with how we've done things all along anyway, so we're happy to keep doing those things. They just say that we have to build in accordance with certain plans and maintain the patio in a certain manner, which we're happy to do. As I said, we've already been doing that. This would have probably been approved once and for all in 2011. The councillor at the time was Councillor McConnell. She said, you know, this is a brand new area. There's a lot of development. Let's give it a try for 2 years and see what happens. We did. I think it worked out well. We came back to the committee. She said, let's give it a try for one more time, 3 years, and we want you to do certain pedestrian studies, et cetera. We undertook those studies. It came back to the committee in 2016. There's a report from BA Group, which you have in the materials, which is, I think, quite robust. It studied pedestrian traffic counts on this section and throughout the whole area, compared this section to you know, every major intersection in Toronto, more or less, concluded that things were working just great, would continue to work just great. And so you'll note in the staff report that transportation accepts the conclusions of that report, planning accept the conclusions of the report, and it says, even though it's a very conservative report, which I can outline why, that things are going to continue to function just great. So in 2016, we said, well, just one more time we'll come back, and it was really because Councillor McConnell wasn't in a position, I don't think, to make many decisions at that time. Here we are. We're asking for the exact same variances that have been approved 3 times, only this time without a condition that restricts it. We have to keep coming back. This is something that is a wonderful addition to the area, to be quite honest. You know, without this patio, you would have, like most of the other buildings in the area, sterile glass walls. You know, when the original bylaw was written, it wasn't contemplated that there'd be a patio in this area. Can you just flip to the next photo? It was, you know, so the idea was that you'd have this beautiful overhang, which was shown on the right at the top, which pedestrians could walk under, and that was how the bylaw was written. So since then, the neighborhood has changed quite dramatically. If I could show you the next photo, actually, I think this paints the image well. This is a picture of what the site looked like when the bylaw was written. We're that site there to the south of the Air Canada Centre. You can see the windswept plains that were there. This is when the bylaw was written. Things have changed. If you go back to the first photo, right, this is what it looks like on Google Images today. It's a completely different environment. It's Manhattan, more or less. And, you know, the path goes through this building now. The path goes literally underneath the patio as it's under construction right now for 16 York. So the context has completely changed, and it's the most pedestrian-friendly area in the city. And, you know, when we talk about patios, I have to say that patios are generally considered to be the most pedestrian-friendly thing you can do. So is it minor? No question it is, both in absolute and relative terms. I mean, we don't have to speculate about that. The thing has been in operation for 8 years without incident, without any issues whatsoever, in my view. So it certainly is minor, and the committee agreed with that 3 times. Is it in accordance with the zoning bylaw and OP? I mean, without getting into those sections individually, because I don't have enough time, it is trite to say that in a CR mixed-use zone, patios and that sort of thing are very common on all the main streets in the city. Do those patios exist? And is it desirable for the development of the land? You know, my client, MLSE, has an interest in seeing this would be a vibrant area, not just when our teams are playing in Jurassic Park and, you know, you have all that activity, but at other times of the week, and et cetera. And so having people and the greenery associated with this patio there is something that's important. The final point I'll make is that I had a conversation with Tom Davidson, who's from Councillor Cressy's office and formerly executive assistant to Pam McConnell just a few moments ago. He indicated the councillor's office has no concern. That was just a few moments ago. So I'm prepared to respond to what was said in the residence letter if you'd like, but I don't have a lot of time, so I'll leave it there.
I would like you to.
Sure. You would like me to?
Yes, please.
The residents, unfortunately,
just briefly,
is just it's incorrect in a number of ways. I think the most important being that they, quote, vehemently oppose a permanent enclosed patio. We had a number of meetings with them over the last few years, in particular this summer, where we contemplated making this a year-round, like fully enclosed during the winter patio. They didn't like the idea. The councillor expressed some skepticism about that. Planning did as well. We didn't ultimately proceed with that. They seem to be under the impression, given that they vehemently oppose a permanent enclosed, that's what we're proposing here. We're not. We're proposing the exact same patio that's been there for 8 years. So I think there's a faulty premise there to begin with. Quote, why Q&A is the view that sidewalks are public spaces. I mean, geez, this is, first of all, strictly speaking, private property. If it was on public property, it would be regulated by the municipal code in the manner that almost every other patio is, but this is entirely within private property. There is also, to be clear, ample room. If I can ask you to refer back to the BA group report, you know, this shows that we have a 3.5 meter wide sidewalk, which is very generous. Yet the BA report, in doing its study, analyzed a 2.6 meter wide width and when I called it conservative, that was what I meant, because it assumed that you'll have people sitting on the edge of that planter and maybe some leafy greenery coming over the side, so they assumed a 2.6 meter wide width. Even with those assumptions, found that there is more than enough capacity here to accommodate, even when the Leafs are in the playoffs and the Raptors and the Jays and the Pan Am Games opening ceremonies took place. All those, that data is in that report, robust report, which staff support. So overall, and most importantly, I think there was a statement made at the end of the letter which talked about how we relied on a 2010 study, just absolutely incorrect. And I'm going to assume that wasn't made in bad faith, that statement by the residents, but we have, you can see in the report, there's 2015, 2016 data there, major events. So there was an old report originally done in 2010, but perhaps that's, but I mean, I did send them the new report they did have. So they seem to be under certain misunderstandings. I would look to what the planning's saying, I would look to what the councillor's office has said, and I would look to what transportation staff has said, and frankly, I would look to the wider context and say, this is just a fantastic thing in the South Core in an area that probably needs a lot more patios and not to be so sterile. So that's I could go on, but I think I've pretty comprehensively addressed it.
Thank you very much. Any questions, panel members?
The Residents Association is saying that you could have expanded the inside rather than the outside. What's your opinion?
Well, it's not that easy because MLSC is a partner in this building. Cadillac Fairview is another partner. There's other commercial partners, and it's not just as we don't have carte blanche to expand in the inside. Secondly, it's not just about seating capacity. You know, there's a desire for people who want to sit outside, right? You could have 1,000 seats inside, but on a nice spring day, maybe a day when you're going to the game later or something, you want to sit outside. And it's, you know, they're not, you can't simply create additional indoor space and have that substitute. This is about creating an environment on the outside of the building and creating a eating environment that is desirable. And it's like if you go up to College Street or Restaurant Row, you see the beautiful patios there where the sidewalks are much more narrow than this, I might add. You know, it's not the same to say, oh, just eat inside. You know, on a nice summer day, you want to be able to eat outside. So I don't think they're replaceable, one for the other. And as I said, I really don't know where that comment from the residents is coming from, because, you know, conventional planning wisdom that I've heard when I think about College Street and St. Clair and the great streets of the city, patios are the most pedestrian-friendly thing you can do, right? Especially if you can contain them entirely within public or private property, as we've done here. So that's, again, I think we're dealing with a very old bylaw that it was written for, a completely different context, and it's amazing that we only need 2 small variances, to be honest, given how it's called the Railway Lands Bylaw. It was written when there was railway lands here, more or less, and there was a sea of parking lots. This is no longer the case. Pedestrians, you know, who live in these buildings don't own a winter coat, more or less. I mean, they walk in the path through this building, they connect through the Air Canada Centre, now Scotiabank Arena, they connect, and they'll soon be connecting in the pathway right under this patio. So I think the context is all wrong, and so I don't agree. And I think that, you know, bottom line is BA study shows that the width of the sidewalk here, even after the patio, is still much more generous than some of the major intersections of the city, and it functions quite well, is their conclusion, and staff agree.
You're looking for permanent approval for usage here.
That's right. So there's 2 nuances here I just want to clarify. There's permanent in the sense that it's not time limited, and the 3 times the Committee of Adjustments approved this before, it said we'll approve it for 2 years, approve it for 3 years. This time we're not asking for such a condition, so this would be the last time we're back here. It's right in that sense.
Suppose the committee decide to approve it for a time frame. I mean,
well, it could. I mean, I'd say after 8 years, we've seen what we're going to see. You know, everyone's objective about it. You know, sees no impact or sees it as a very positive thing. I mean, the purpose originally of putting any time limit was to sort of see how it would go. I could see the value in that. You know, if it's been 8 years, it's working great. I mean, when I was last here at the committee, it was Chairman Brown. It's never happened to me before or since. He really tore into me saying, why isn't this permanent? This is the best patio in the city. Why do you keep coming back here? And I said, listen, we're just trying to work with the councillor on it. So my desire is, so I've never been beaten up for not asking for more. And so he actually unilaterally amended the dates. You might, if you look back at the decision history, and said, here, I want to give you more time.
Chairman Brown isn't here any longer.
He's not anymore. But anyway, but my point is that this is something that I think objectively has worked out very, very well. And when you look at the residents' concerns, they're just not. They've never raised a concern in any of the previous approvals prior to this one. In fact, they did write us a letter when we were contemplating a permanent, you know, a seasonal, you know, not just seasonal, but something we close year round. They wrote us a letter saying we'd have no problem extending it for another 2 or 3 years, right? So, you know, are we going to do this for 11 years? Am I going to be back here again? Like, what do we expect to find? We studied it during like once in a generation events in terms of pedestrian activity, and found it works very well. So anyway, I think we've studied it as much as can be studied in 8 years.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Okay, so thank you very much. We're in committee now. Discussion or motion, please.
Madam Chair, this is exactly what the city's looking for, especially in areas like that are near a venue that has sporting events and all kinds of things. Clearly, this patio is working. To me, these variances are minor, and the entire application fits in the context of that area. So I would be prepared to move approval, including the conditions in the January 24th planning report.
I would second that with the observation that these objections really don't make a whole lot of sense.
No, I would agree. Especially as it's been pointed out, it's on private property, so.
I'll vote with it, but you know, people have a right to make objections.
That's a motion.
Okay. Okay, so that's a motion by Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Carlson for approval of the application, subject to the conditions in the January 24th, 2019 planning report. All in favor? Thank you. Your application's approved, subject to condition. Thank you. Number 18, 111.5 Grassi Street, please. The committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, and correspondence in support or no opposition from Chris Shantz at 106 Grassi Street. Could we have your name, please, sir?
Good morning, Madam Chairman and committee members. I'm Steve O'Neill, owner of 111.5 Grassi. I'm here today for variances for a two-story extension in the back of the house.
Okay.
We've received no correspondence from the planning committee, and I have signatures in agreement with the variances, including the neighbors directly on the left and right, across the street, and the neighbor facing our backyard.
I'd like to hand those to staff, please. Committee members, do you need a full presentation, or can we proceed to questions?
No.
So,
Question.
any questions, please?
Yeah. What happened to the landscaping at the rear yard?
So currently we have a deck with a little bit of green space at the back, and we don't really use the green space because we have Grassi Park up the street. So we really just use the deck for entertaining and the kids to have fun. So really the thought process was, when we do the extension, just move the deck backwards into the space behind it. But that being said, I didn't realize that the no green space would be a variance, and I'm not really hung up on the green space.
Yeah.
So would you be prepared to remove the variance?
Yes.
Green space? Okay, so are you removing the variance? Because it's not up to us to remove variances.
I guess it depends. I would prefer just to have a deck at the back. I can put some planters and shrubbery out, and I would make more use of the space with the deck than I would a little bit of a green space that's going to be unused, to be honest with you.
So you'd like us to consider it as submitted then?
Yes, please.
Any further questions?
My motion would be
Okay, so
to be
we're in committee?
We are in committee. If we're in committee,
Discussion motion?
my motion would be to approve variant 1 and 2 and refuse the rear landscaping. And I can speak to it, but the deck is existing with a rear addition going in. It's not existing. It's a new deck. I think there's probably space for some rear deck while providing soft landscaping, but as proposed, to cover the entire yard with.
I second that.
So is that that's a motion? That's a formal motion? Okay. Okay, so that's a motion from Mr. Carlson, seconded by Mr. Russell, to approve variance number 1 and 2 of the application and refuse variance number 3. Do I have that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so all in favor? Okay, the application, variance 1 and 2 are approved, variance 3 is refused.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, just 1 second. Number 8, please. Uh, 644 Rhodes. Just one moment. Yes, I do. Did you get a copy of 17 already, or do you need that back? Where's the other? These ones. Here. Just one moment, please, sir. Just get back to that. So just before you start, the committee has before it a copy of plan, of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, and a previous decision of the Committee of Adjustment affecting the subject property. Could we have your name, please, sir?
Patrick McAuliffe, agent for the owner.
Thank you. Sir, could you come and sit to our left here? That would be great. Thank you. Okay, sir, you have 5 minutes.
Yeah, we were at committee about 1.5 years ago, and the purpose at that time was to build an addition on the back of an existing house.
Yes.
Once we started to get into the permit phase of it, we realized that it was impossible to build because we couldn't leave the 50% of the existing house up and get to the backyard in order to build the addition. So we decided to come back and ask to build a new house. So a few of the items have changed from the original committee agreement, okay? So one of the issues that keeps coming up is about no parking space. This property is, a very, very narrow property. There's almost a 5-foot increase from the sidewalk to the front lawn. In the middle of that is a 4-foot in diameter tree. There is absolutely no way to build. Do we have that picture? Here we go. There's no way to put a driveway into this property. There never was a driveway or a garage for this property. And because of that 4-foot in diameter tree, there's absolutely no way to provide one. So that's why there's no garage on this house, okay? So on this house, we're asking for a 0.76 living space index. Under the previous approval, we got 0.768. The maximum permitted height for the first floor above grade, this is an error between me and when it's sent into PPR. This item can be removed because I can drop at 0.02 without any problem.
Variance number 2, okay.
Yeah. Item number 3, the permitted maximum depth. It's 17 meters is what's permitted. We're asking for a 0.82 meter additional for 17.82. Again, the item of the 1 parking space comes up, and I believe the city is okay with that. Item number 5, the side yard setback of 0.45 meters. Actually, most of the house is 0.61 meters. It's only a small section of the second floor that projects out. That is the 0.35 meters from the side setback. The maximum permitted height from all front and exterior main walls, 7.5 meters. We're 0.752. I think we can eliminate that one because that's just a mathematical error there.
So we'll remove variance number 6?
Yep.
Okay.
Item number 7, the maximum permitted height of all side exterior main walls facing the side lot lines, 7.5 meters. We're asking for 7.77, and that's because I'm tired of seeing just 50-foot long houses with nothing on the side of them. So I put a dormer on the side on each side of this house where I have a bit of cantilevered second floor, just to be different. Number 7, the maximum height of all side exterior main walls. Oh, sorry, that's the one. Number 8, the roof eaves. Again, that's a minor item. And again, the 1 parking space.
All right.
And I believe for number 8, the previous C of A approved 0.06 and 0.29, is that correct?
Roof eaves. Okay, well, we're at 0.28.
Right, so it's only like 0.01 difference from your last approval, I guess, is all.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, any questions of the presenter this time? Okay. Okay. Sir, may we please hear from you, and then you'll have a chance to rebut. Thank you. And could we have your name and address, sir?
It's Dr. Norman Allen.
Okay.
It's 1027 Craven, the house directly to the west.
Okay.
Backyards adjoin. And busy with other things in life, I wasn't aware of the former changes. So read. So, Madam Chair, committee members, I live behind. I believe this has made a change in the nature and character of our neighbourhood. And it's not a minor variation as English language. So, it's maybe a minor variation from their last application, but it's a very major variation from the house that's there now and to the regulations. The maximum permitted floor space index is 60% of the lot. This request is asking for more than a 25% increase in the maximum permitted level. And that's not a minor variance. If you're 6 feet tall, then growing to 7 foot 6 inches is not a minor variance. However, my area of expertise is not engineering or architecture. I'm in medical biology. So when they speak about floor space, I'm not sure whether they're talking about the footprint of the house or the 2 floors in the basement or just the 2 floors that are finished. So I'm not clear on that, but they're asking for more than a 25% change in the permitted floor space. And as relates to the character of the neighborhood, I believe the applicants here, this is an investment property for them. And I don't think they're aware of the nature of the neighborhood. I asked them if there are large trees, one's 4-foot diameter here. They don't know what sort of tree it is. And it's very much the character of Rhodes, which I gather is the fastest selling property in the city. And its nature is important. So this house is from where it is now. It's 1 story, it's 1 floor, and it's not right on my property. It's coming back, bringing it back 2 stories high, close to my property, close to where I live. The applicant is looking for an increase in their floor space of more than 25% of the maximum permitted. I might speculate that's why kitchen extensions are often 1 story high. I'm not sure, to comply with those regulations. I mean, they say they're permitted to come back another 17 foot. But normally, many houses, what's coming back is 1 story where the house is 2 story. And that, am I right in speculating that's to comply with floor space?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Anyway, it seems to me that this is not a minor variance. The first variance here, it's like growing from 6 foot to 7 foot 6. And I'm sorry I didn't have more time to prepare. I only heard of this a few weeks ago.
So just so I understand, you're just in general opposed to a 2-story house going in?
I'm opposed to, so now, if you're where the house is now, the 2 stories is going to come to here.
So, yeah.
It may not, I'm not sure what their last application that was approved is, but the change from what is there now is major.
The last application floor space, they were actually approved for 0.08 more, but they could actually go back 17 meters without coming to committee, just so you understand, and build a 2-story as of right.
Right. That surprises me.
Yeah. I just wanted you to understand the bylaw, that's all.
Right.
So the property currently at 648 is currently quite a lot deeper than what's being proposed, but it's a 1-story frame addition at the back, right? So it's from a depth perspective, it's about the same as what's being proposed. What's being proposed is a little deeper.
And 2 stories. it's coming back, the depth is you have to go 8 houses to the south to get anything further, and on the map here, 9 houses to the north are not that deep. So it is a change in the character of the area. I hate to be NIMBY, but I do enjoy my house and the space.
What about the other houses in the area? You're speaking of character. Will this one be so out of...
No, I just saw their drawings, and their architectural drawings a little bit. It looks very pleasant. It's not going to be a mob boss's mansion. No. But I'm just concerned about imposing the great difference that my eastern aspect is going to make. My eastern aspect, my view, when the sunlight reaches my garden in the morning. And it's hard to imagine, and I'm not sure, it might be hyperbole to say it's going to loom over me when I'm in my garden. But I fear that it's going to loom over me when I'm in my garden. And I'm very conflicted about making any objection, but I think I owe it to my family to maximize the enjoyment of our property.
Well, it's your right to make submissions, sir. So. Is anything else you'd
The other variant, 8 variances, 8 minor variants. What number of minor variances make a variance? Make a non-minor variance? They've dropped one. They're asking for 7 variances, and the first one is major. It's more than a 25% change in the maximum allowed, and I'm not familiar with the procedure. I come here as a rank amateur shaking.
You're doing well, thank you. Thank you, sir. You can just have a seat. Sir, if you can please respond to the issues that have been raised by Dr. Allen.
The owners of 648 are here. I've already gone over everything with them, and they don't seem to have any objection to the length of the house. The house only appears to be about 2 meters longer than their house. As far as the backyard goes, we're more than 12 meters from the back property line. So it's more than adequate, I would say. So I hear his concerns, but this is what the people would like to have. And
Roughly how much longer is it than the addition at 648 next door, do you know?
Sorry?
Your new house, roughly how much longer than the house next door? That
2 meters at the look of it, if that. Maybe not even 2 meters.
The opposition spoke about shadowing, basically, because you're so close back to him. How close will you be to his property, and how?
I'm not sure how far his house is from his back property line, but we are 40 feet from the back property line. So even if he had the 7.5 meters, what's that? That's going to be 65 feet away from his house.
FSI, that was another issue raised by Dr. Allen. Is there other FSIs in the neighborhood that are similar to what you're requesting?
Sorry?
FSI that you're requesting. That's another issue was raised by.
Well, if this is going to become an issue, I can take a foot off the length of the house and reduce everything.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
For your submission, do you have any submissions with respect to the FSI?
We are almost exactly what we were when we came here, with just a regular house, like adding an addition onto the house. So we didn't try to make this house any bigger.
I think we're trying to find out if there are any other houses in the area that are around this kind of floor space index, if you know.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
But we're not even up to the coverage of what the coverage is allowed. And if you build a second floor house on top of 35%, you would be up to 70%.
you, sir. Do you have anything else that you wish to say? Okay, thank you. We're in committee. Discussion or a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I do respect the comments made by Dr. Allen, and I'm very sympathetic. I understand that when things change, it's sometimes difficult to you do lose sight lines at times and different things. I've experienced it in my neighborhood, but that is the way the city is going. And in terms of the variances that are before us, they are extremely minor. The floor space index was previously approved. 2 variances have been removed. And I don't think that what's being proposed is out of context within that neighborhood. So, from a planning perspective, which is what we look at, I think these variances are minor and meet the 4 tests.
Any other questions or comments?
So I would be prepared to move approval as amended, the application removing variance number 2 under bylaw 569-2013 and removing variance number 6 under bylaw 569-2013. And the rest of the variances I would approve.
So we have a motion from Ms. Oman, seconded by Mr. Carlson, for approval of the application as amended, removing variance number 2 and variance number 6 to bylaw 569-2013. All in favor? Thank you. Your application's been approved as amended. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to the end of. So that brings us to the end of this time slot. Committee is adjourned at 10:55, resuming at 1:30.
Do you feel like to walk into, or is it too much for you?